All right, Randy.
Thank you.
Well, today you'll see my face for just, last week I got dressed up. I shared my webcam the whole time. But I'm going to do very little talking today. It's going to be Mark Lucas. And I asked Mark just to put a picture of himself in his PowerPoint and not share his webcam because his bandwidth is low. So it's much more important that we see the screen that he's sharing than his bright, shiny face. But I assure you, he's wearing a suit today. We just won't see it. I don't know if that's true, Mark, or not. But anyway, I wanted to just welcome everyone and say thanks again for accommodating the time. Last week, we heard about supplier contracts, legal contracts, the request for those, and how the Spirit C solution connects the request for contract, the legal creation with the creation of the transactional procurement event. And that's a great step-by-step solution, but it actually starts in the middle in some scenarios, right? In some scenarios, the beginning process is actually a request for proposal, an RFP or an RFQ. And that is the strategic sourcing module in PeopleSoft. So if your requesters are in need of goods or services and you don't yet have a contract in place, this is the module that we would deploy in PeopleSoft so that the business process that we saw last week initiates with the start of an RFP, RFQ, and once awarded, then we can roll into that whole negotiation and ultimately source into a purchase order. So with that said, hopefully I've framed up the storyboard here for you. You're going to see the beginning. This is a prequel, if you will, to the processes that we showed last week. So Mark is going to share his screen. Mark Lucas with Spear MC. And Mark, I'm going to just hand it over to you and let you run with it. I'll stay on mute unless I'm called on. Certainly I'll be here to answer questions, but Mark is the expert in this area and probably will take first pass, okay? All right, Mark, you're on.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Randy. Okay, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the strategic sourcing presentation. Going to keep the PowerPoints really pretty quick. Just wanted to provide a quick overview of strategic sourcing, so everybody has kind of a starting point and has a little bit of an understanding of how the product works, and then from there I'm going to actually get into strat sourcing and perform an event and navigate around and give you a feel for it. So that's our plan for today. So here, as promised, is a shot of me, and I've been doing PeopleSoft for a while now. I'm a consultant with Spear MC. I do the procure to pay area. Those are kind of the products that I typically focus in, and happy to show you the strategic sourcing product today. So what I'd like to do, before we get into the product, I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of how it works so that when I'm navigating around, I'll refer back to this, what I'm showing you here, so you'll have a sense of where you're at in what I'm presenting. So like everything in PeopleSoft, we have a bunch of control tables that we need to set up in advance, and that's what you see over here on the left-hand side. I'll call that the strategic sourcing setup, and that involves things like bid factors, collaborators, bidders, suppliers. Let me explain what those are. The first one here is bid factors. Bid factors are great. Bid factors are really the heart of the strategic sourcing product, and what happens is you build a sourcing event. That's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be building a sourcing event, and within that sourcing event, you're going to be asking questions of the folks you're sending that RFX too, okay? You're going to ask them pricing information. You're going to ask them quality information, maybe how long they've been doing something. All of these questions in PeopleSoft are known as bid factors. So obviously the bid factors get set up in advance. You don't have to have them all set up in advance, but the majority certainly will be set up in advance so they can be referenced when you build the event. So we'll show you what those look like. The other thing that you would set up is people that are going to be collaborators. So normally the supply chain folks, the folks in purchasing, procurement, they run these events, but they may need input from other people. So those are known as collaborators. So we can bring them in to help us shape the event, help us analyze the event when we've gotten our feedback from the supplier. So collaborators can be both what we call pre-event and post-event collaborators. So we'll show you how they come into play in a little while. You can send the request for proposal or request for quote out to different companies or different organizations. So these would be existing suppliers that you have, and you can also set up what's called a bidder. This is someone that's not officially a supplier with you, but someone you might be contemplating setting up, and they can be a bidder. And then if you decide to award to them, the system can make them into a supplier. So those are how those two are the groups that you would end up referencing when you build the event. All right. So that's our setup. Okay. Then we get over here to the event creation. So when we build an event in strategic sourcing, it's comprised of header information and line information, very similar to a lot of the other transactions that you see in PeopleSoft. Header information applies to the whole event. Line information is the specific things you're looking to get purchased. Now, you can build an event from scratch, or you can also have event sources, kind of like Randy was implying there. You could potentially have the procurement contract be a source to build the event. An existing ePro requisition could be used. In fact, that's frequent, right? That's a frequent way that it's done because that's the start of the whole process. Is someone puts in a request for something that they need, and then because it's a costly item or maybe it's a dangerous product or whatever the situation is, you need to get quotes on it to understand how it's going to be handled, how it's going to be transported, whatever the case may be. So again, the ePro Rec can be a source to create the event, and the event itself. You could have another event that you did 6 months ago or a year ago, and now you need to do a similar type event. You can copy the old event into a new event and then make the changes you need to do. So anyway, that's how we can start to build our event. As we build it, we assign these bid factors and weightings to the header and line. Real important. That's probably what's so great about the strategic sourcing product is when you ask these questions, you assign weightings to them. So, price might be an important consideration on a line, let's say, but the quality of that product is also important. So maybe the price is more important, maybe it's a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split. So you apply these weightings. And then the system calculates a score for the different suppliers based on these weightings. So when it's all done and people have provided their input, like the collaborators and all the inputs in, you'll have a score and you'll know very easily which supplier won and who you should likely award to. From there, we can put in these pre-event collaborators to help us shape the event, and we can assign the bidders and suppliers that we want to send this RFP, RFQ, RFI, whatever it happens to be, to. Once the event's created, we actually perform, if needed, may not be needed, but we perform this pre-event collaboration step where people will that are invited as collaborators can provide their input, and they have a time period in which to do that. And then when it comes back from them, the event administrator, so someone in supply chain, reviews all that collaboration, decides what to keep, what to throw out, and saves the final version of the event. And then they post it. And when they post it, that's similar to like dispatching a PO. It gets transmitted out to the supplier.
Hey,
And,
hey, Mark.
yeah.
It looks like Malik has a question. His hand is politely raised. Malik,
Okay.
if you, yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. So my question is that these collaborators or the contributors in the event, in our business scenario, can these be the technical department heads or maybe the representative from biomedical or someone like that?
Sure. In fact, they can be anyone in your organization. They just need to be given a certain role. It's called an event collaborator. And once they have that, they can just be referenced. And they'll be, you'll see when I build it, they're put in a certain order, and it kind of, only one person can have the event checked out at a time. And then it goes through the sequence of collaborators. And then once they finish responding, then the person in supply chain, the administrator of the event, gets it all ready to go.
So in our process, once the bids are received, there is a mandatory technical review process, or I would say a clinical review process as well, whereby the departments, other departments actually come in and mark their feedback. So
Right.
I'm referring to this type of collaboration.
It sounds like maybe you have various kind of roles. Some are going to be technical review, and others might just be collaborators on a unique and specific RFP. And I think we can establish both rules so that, you know, the technical review always happens, but there may be a science review or some other, you know, stage that you need depending on the thing it is you're buying. I mean, I think we can accommodate both scenarios.
Yeah. No, we can. In fact, Randy, that's called a split analysis, and that's a new feature that I don't want to say new. New is a relative term, but it's there for a little while. But you can definitely split between different collaborators for different functions.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. So from here, the event is transmitted out to the supplier, they or bidder, and then they review it and prepare their response, answer the questions, and then they provide the response back to you. And that can be done in one of three ways. If you have the supplier portal up and running, then they can be sent an email, and they can just log into the supplier portal and review the event and fill out their responses right there. So that's one way. The other way, or second way, that they can do things is through an XML file, and that XML file is just basically a spreadsheet. So they'll be emailed what's called a bid package, and in that bid package is the XML file. They open it up in Excel, and it's pretty much all the questions, and they just respond in that Excel spreadsheet. And then when they're done, they can do one of two things. If they have access to the supplier portal, they can upload it themselves to the event through the supplier portal, or they can send it back to you in purchasing, back to the buyer, back to the supplier, or I should say the event admin person, and then that person can take the responsibility for uploading it against the event, and then their response is in the system and registered. The last thing that they can do is they can respond to the buyer with their answers. I say buyer. I should say the event owner. They can reply to the event owner as with their responses, and then that person can actually key in the response into the system and log it that way. So those are the three methods. Obviously, them doing it in the supplier portal is probably the best. XML is an easy way to do it. It's kind of like a turnaround document. or they can provide the information to you and you can key it in for them. That's probably the last method. That will be the method I actually show today, but just to give you a sense of how it works. But that would not be the one you would typically try to do. Okay, so then once the information is back in the event and basically the clock has stopped. Okay, there's a lot of timers that are involved in strategic sourcing, time windows. So once that's complete, then you folks in the university would do the actual analysis of the information that came back. You could optionally decide to invite a post-event collaborator. It's not necessary, but you may want to get post-event input. So you can invite a post-event collaborator. They can then, in turn, review the responses and score or provide their input on what the vendor has said. You can do that as well. So again, inviting the post-event collaborator is optional. From there, you award the event. And you can award the event to a procurement contract like Randy was talking about last week. You can award the event to a PO. It's done in the system. If you're awarding to a bidder, the bidder will be converted into a supplier for you, and then it'll go out. If you're buying an item, it'll build an item vendor cross-reference record for you, and that PO will be sent out to the supplier, and that's what you see right here, the final step. Okay, so that's the basic flow of strategic sourcing. And what I was going to do now is go into the system and kind of do these things. And before I do, any question on what I've shown? Okay. All right, so I'm going to log in here to PeopleSoft. All right. What happens here? You've seen the tiles, procurement operations. You've seen employee self-service. We can build a home page for strategic sourcing. There's not one that's delivered out of the box, so I'm going to be working over here in the nav bar area. Okay, under strategic sourcing. Right. So you can see pretty much the main things. We're creating events. We're doing responses. We're maintaining the events, where we're analyzing things. There's an administration section. So I'm gonna start out up here. I want to show you what bid factors look like, just so you have a sense of it. So if we come in here, these are ones that are set up in the demo system here. A lot of them aren't necessarily relevant. They might be tied to certain types of business, like framing, which is building. But you can see they're just all sorts of different questions. And the most important one is this one here called price. What's your price? That's why you're typically sending out these types of events, to get a price. But there's certainly others. So another one might be what are your core competencies? Okay, might be a question. Another thing that might be of interest is what's your years of experience? How many years have you been involved in this particular business that we're asking you to respond to? So we go down here. What's your product warranty? That sort of thing. So you get the idea. You build these questions. So it's the things that are relevant to you. Price, obviously, is an important one, but the others are up to you. And they're going to be what comprise the event. The other thing I just wanted to show you real quickly, just so you know, is, let's see. I have a list here in the system. This is just a quick way to get to it. So these are some bidders that we've got out there in the system. So if I click on it, that's what a bidder looks like. So it's kind of like it's like a supplier's poor cousin, right? It's got just not as many fields as the supplier has, but certainly relevant type stuff. Address, who to contact, any special kind of identifications that we might have for this bidder, tax ID number, products that they provide. That's what these SIC codes are. They refer to types of products. So you can build category trees and involve bidders in events based on their SIC codes. So anyway, that's a bidder. So bidders can be set up by you. You can set a company up as a bidder if you don't want to make them a full supplier, or you can use the supplier registration process that's part of the supplier portal to allow them to register themselves if you want to let them be set up as a bidder. Typically you invite people to register as a supplier, but you don't just let them register on your website as a supplier. You would let them register as a bidder, potentially. Okay, so with that said, I'm gonna build my my event. So I come in here, create events, and what you're going to see, there's different things here. There's rounds, there's versions. Versions are just updated details about an event. So if something changed in the event, you can do a new version. A new round is that's when, if you have, let's say, many people involved, many suppliers or bidders involved in providing an RFP or RFQ response, and then you narrow it down to a short list of one or two. Well, one's probably not appropriate. Two or three, then you could do a new round and have like a new set of bidding on pricing and kind of to finalize everything. So that's what's called a round. Anyway, we're going to do what's called a buy event. You know, the system supports sell events, it supports RFIs, but this is just, we're going to do a typical thing where you're looking to buy something, and you want to get pricing information on it. Okay, so that brings us into here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by building things out. And I was thinking, well, what could I do? It might be a good example for you folks. And I thought that you could get some supplies for your chemistry department. Okay, so that's what I came up with. All right. So then what happens? We go down and you can see that there's these different steps. We do what's called the basics. We set up our lines. We invite our bidders. We have our collaborators, and then we get the event going. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some header level bid factors. Okay, so this is stuff that applies to the whole event. All right. So as I look down my list, experience. That's important. How many relevant years of experience does this supplier have? And then I'm going to look down here, and you know, maybe I'm ISO certified. Okay, that's a manufacturing standard. Not sure if it's applicable to you folks. It is here in the States, so. I'm just adding that. Are you ISO certified? That would be good if they were. Okay. And then what we do is we give these weightings, like I was saying. So the weightings always need to tally up to 100%. So let's just say 80% of their experience is important to us, and 20% if they're ISO certified, and that's good. Those are my two bid factors. Then I come here to event settings, And I say, those things are important, but when I look at the whole event, really it's at the line level, the pricing and what they can do for those particular items that I'm most concerned about. So this whole event, this thing's only worth 10% to me. I just want to get that information and know how long they've been in business and that sort of information. So anyway, I put that in, and now at this point, I'm going to go to my line items. What is it that I'm looking to purchase? So there's a couple of products I've got here. So I got, let's see, a 250 milliliter beaker that we're going to get for the lab, and we're going to get a 500 milliliter flask. And let's just say, for argument's sake, it's you're preparing for the fall semester, so this might be something you might purchase, say, early summer. You want to get this going, so you want to get a quote. We want to get 200 of these, and 200 of these. That's what we're looking to get. And notice that the starting price that came in from my item ID. So when you set up your items, there's a standard unit price there that came in. So I believe I've got this set up that the expectation is that the suppliers will have to beat that price. It doesn't have to be set that way, but I've got it set up that way. Okay, so now if you notice, I've got 90% weighting left because I used 10% on the header. So now I've got, let's just say, I'll just split it evenly, 45% weighting for each. Okay. And so those are the items that I'm gonna purchase. I want to get pricing on them from the vendors. And then, okay, what are the bid factors that apply to these? So certainly the price is important. But you know what? I may be interested in quality. What's your quality process? All glassware, I might be interested in what's your shipping process. What kind of packaging do you use? Okay. The other thing is what's your warranty? These things gonna crack the first year. How long are they gonna last? So that's the warranty. So the price is probably the most important thing. Let's just say that's 60%. The quality process is probably 30, and let's say the warranty comes in 10%. Okay. Again, tallying up to 100%. Now I go back and I'll do the same thing for the second line. Now I'll just do it real quick. Now, what I want to point out is that you can build bid factor groups, so you don't have to do each line separately. Okay, if I was doing a lot of these, I would build a group, and then I could just apply the group to the lines. But here we just got a couple of lines, so I'm just gonna do it. All right. Probably a good time to save the event. So I just did that. Now, who do I want to invite? So I come in here and I search for bidders. So when I do this, you can see up here, I can search for bidders, I can search for suppliers, I can search for both. I'm just going to leave it as both. I can put in certain ones that I'm looking for. I'm just going to leave it wide open. Get the biggest list of people that I can do. So let's see. We've got this Covidium Medical Supply Company, so I'll include them. And let's see, I'll also include Braun Medical Supplies right here. Okay, so I've got two suppliers that I'm going to send it to, and notice up here we've got bidders in the list as well. I'm not going to send it to a bidder today, but I could have. I could have selected a bidder, and then I come down here. I'm going to save the event. I'm going to save these as print. I could email them. This is our demo system, so that's not working. So I'm just going to save it as print. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm pretty much done at this point. I'm going to invite an event collaborator. Now let me do this before I invite them. There's some dates up here. So what I'm going to do is, if you notice, I've got a preview date, start date, and an end date. So let's see. I'm going to normally this would be days. For me, it's going to be minutes. All right. So I'm gonna give my collaborator about 6 minutes to respond here, real quick, and then I'm going to start my event after that, and I guess I got to get it done by 3 o'clock here. So let's just say. All right, so I've got about 15 minutes to get this whole thing done. So, let me go in here. I'm going to save the event. I'm going to do my event collaborator. And, okay, so I've got a guy out here, T. Irving. Right. And he's my category expert on glassware. Now, I've got to get my feedback back from him ahead of so he's going to be my collaborator. Event's all good to go. Notice I have a little thing here that says route. So he's got to respond before 2:40, so I can include his collaboration information. So I'm going to work quick here, and I route it to him. Log in as him. Okay, so he'll get an email. He gets a work list notification. He can probably get a notification up here if it's set up in the bells area up here, but the alert area. That's not set up in this environment. Should have a work list though. Okay. There it is. Hey, you need to collaborate on this event. So he comes into here, the event workbench. Down here, view collaboration, available for checkout. So he's going to check it out. Now, I could have involved multiple collaborators, but I'm just involving him. So, so he's going to look here real quick, and his input is, hey, I see these two bid factors, but you know what? I'd like another bid factor, and I'm actually concerned about our prior experience with this company. Right here, past experience. So he's going to add another bid factor. He's going to change the weighting around. He's going to say, hey, actually, I'm less concerned about his overall experience. I'm more concerned about our experience with him. So I'm going to make that 40%. So that's one of the things he's going to do. And then I go to the bidder invitations, and he looks to see who we're inviting to bid, and says, you know what? I'm going to do a search here, and I'm going to invite this Riger Services as well. I want to have them involved. I think they've done this kind of thing before. So at this point, we'll save the event changes. We'll return to the event, and at the bottom here, I've got a little thing called route. Okay, it's going to check in the event, and he's done. Okay, so at that point, he logs out. I'm going to log back in as the event owner, okay, in the procurement department. All right, and so then I come in, and I get a message right here from T. Irving, okay? All right, and I now can review what's been done. So how do I know what's been done? Well, notice these links are available up here. So I can go here, invited bidders, and you know what? First thing I see, he's invited Riger. Well, yeah, I know why he invited him. That's his cousin. So we're going to reject that. We don't want him. So that one's out. I can go through each of these links that are exposed to tell me what's been changed. But I go to here to the bid factors, and I see that a new one was added, and they've added past experience, and I could reject that, but I think I think that's a good idea. I think I would like to see what the bidder's past experience is. So we're going to leave that one, but I am going to update the weighting. I'm going to accept that. Right. So now at this point, I say update event, and I should be all good. The update process has completed. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and I'm going to post the event. This will submit the event for approval. So now, if I was using email, both of those suppliers would have received an email bid package, and they'd know that they were invited to bid on this event. They could fill out a spreadsheet. By the way, spreadsheet would look something like this. This is one I did earlier just to show you. But that's what the XML spreadsheet would look like. See, how many years of experience do you have? They could put that information in. Are you ISO certified? What's your price? Whatever. You could fill it out. What's your quality process? You can fill that out. So that's one way that the supplier can respond. They can also log into the supplier portal and respond that way. And then the last thing that they can do is they can have you respond. So that's what I'm going to actually that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to go back to my event. Okay, and here's my two suppliers. So I now have to, actually, let me go here, see what I'm dealing with. I go to the event workbench, and all right, I got 6 minutes and 56 seconds before this event expires. So I better get working on creating these bidder responses. So I'm gonna go into the first supplier. That's just a message that you want to default the bid quantity. I'm saying yes. Right. And then I go in here, and this is what they would see in the supplier portal, except I'm doing it as the person in procurement for them. So they get 5 years, and they are ISO certified. And then here's their pricing. Okay, so they can do $5 for this one, and they can do $6.45 for this one. And they go to bid, and this is where they have their line questions. Yeah, it's good. Let's just say 4 years for a warranty, and then we can validate the entry. Oh, I didn't do line 2. So I get a message, I didn't do line 2. So let me go to line 2. And I need to put in the quality process for that. Actually, it's better. And 5 years. Go to the start page. I validate my entries that I filled everything out. It tells me I'm good. So I do submit bid, and I'm done. So that's what they would do. That's what the person in purchasing, the event owner, just did for them. Now, here's Braun. They go in. How many years experience do you have? 8. Are you ISO certified? Yes, we are. All right. Your unit price. We can do $4 on that. We can do $5 on this one. And our quality is great. We could do a 10-year warranty. Validate our entries. We're good. So we submit our bid, and we're done submitting. So if we look here, okay, I did it with 3 minutes 46 seconds to spare. All right. So anyway, obviously in a real life situation, this is going to be several days or potentially weeks. The goal is they would do it, not you. But if they did it in the supplier portal, it would look just like what I showed you there. Same type of entry. They'd see the questions. They would respond. Okay. So at this point, the entries are in. The responses are in. It's now time to analyze the event and then award the event to the supplier that we want. So I can go in right here, and I can analyze the bids. But I can't really award it until the time frame has been used up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a new version real quick. And just going to change it to now. I go back to the event workbench. Okay, now I've got a status of event completed. So what that means is I can go in, I can analyze the responses, and then I can actually award. So I'm going to click Analyze Bids, and here we go. We have the two suppliers. The system has calculated a score for us based on what the supplier has entered. So what I can do right now, I'm actually not going to do it in the interest of time, but I could even involve what's called a post-event collaborator. So see, I could come here and I could say invite collaborators, and I could get that guy T. Irving that I had earlier, or I could get somebody else to help me analyze the responses that have come back. But that's an optional step, so I'm not going to do that right now. But I can certainly analyze the responses that come in, and there may be some that require my input. So let's take a look. Right now, we're at the header level. See up here, Analyze Total. Then you have Analyze Line. So if I click the factors, notice I can see how the candidate responded. All right. How many years of experience does the candidate possess? Okay. So Braun's been doing this for 8 years. These guys have been doing it for 5. So now I, as the event owner, or if I had invited a collaborator, could score this. Say, oh, okay, these guys have been doing it for 8 years. Boy, that's pretty good. You know, we're going to give them 100% of that 40% weighting. Whoops. All right, now I go to the other supplier, Covidium. Oh, they've been doing it for 5 years. Hey, that's pretty good too. But you know what? Not as good as the other guy. I'm going to give them 75% of the 40 weighting. Okay. So that's how I can do my scoring. Okay. What's our past experience with this bidder? So I can come in here and I can do a weighting. And there's a little bit of a bug here. Notice that these radio buttons aren't exposed, but this is what you would typically do when it's working correctly. You would click the radio button for your experience with that bidder. And then based on your weighting, if they were very good, they'd get 75% of the 40 weighting. If they were just good, they'd get 50% of that. They'd get 20 points. So this is what the collaborators do. This is what you can do as the event owner. If I go to Analyze Line, I can come in here and I can click on the Analyze link, and I can see that I've got scoring here. So, wow, these guys are really a lot better. So let's just take a look. If I come in here, oh, well, I can see why. They're $4 instead of $5. They're great instead of good. I can come in here and give it scoring, but I won't right now. I can see the warranty is a lot better, and then if I go to the next line, similar kind of information down here. Okay, lot better. All right, so now I say okay. Okay, come back here, and I think it did recalculate already. Yeah, it did recalculate based on my information. Okay, so now I've reviewed. I've made my decision. I'm going to go with Braun. Okay, they're just a lot better in all of those different areas. So what I do is I say award by percent. So in this case, I'm going to give them 100%. Now I could split it. I could give one of the lines to them. I could give one of the lines to the other supplier. I could give both lines to both suppliers, but give more to brawn, less to Covidium. I could split it however I want. Here, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to do 100%. I'm going to say save. Okay. And then I say go to award events. All right. And here's my supplier, Braun. I give it a business unit. I don't have to do this. I'm just picking a terms code. All right. So here's the 200. Here's their pricing. I'm going to say post award. And the system created the PO for me. And there it is. Okay. And the other thing that I think I didn't hit save first. So
Hey, Mark, before I lose sight, Malik has another question, hand raised.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, Malik, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Yeah. So my question is that in our scenario, before we issue the PO, we get the financial approval from a committee based on the value threshold of the deal. So we have a purchase committee, and there are certain authorities. Is there a way to incorporate this business process in the module?
There is, but it would be done right here. Like, see how this went to an approved status? This could have stayed as not approved, okay? And you would have had to go through approval workflow before that would have changed. Okay, so the workflow would be part of the PO. It wouldn't be part of the strategic sourcing event. Okay. All right.
Okay. So the related question is that in our process, actually, this purchase committee document is a very lengthy document with a lot of descriptions and a lot of analysis. Can this evaluation sheet be printed and attached to that? I mean, is there a way we can print it and then use it as a approval process?
Yeah, I mean, you can get output from the system to attach. I mean, you could get the original RFQ. If you wanted to get all the responses back and attach it, that might be something that would have to get developed. I'd have to look into that to be sure. But you know, they could be given potentially a link back to the event so they could look at it to see what took place. So that's another potential option that's available. But again, you know, it's in this analysis phase. All of these things are available. The other thing too is this document status inquiry that's available on the PO. So if we click this, should be able to see the strategic sourcing event. Yep, see. So they could go there and review the information that was comprised in the event. Okay. I'll go down here.
This is useful.
Yeah, that would be another way.
And one more question.
Sure.
Let's see.
Can I ask?
Yes, please.
I want to know, just we are involving collaborators in the systems. Is there an option so their feedback can also be recorded? And another question is like, if a bidder is new, will the supplier be created automatically? And what information will be entered in the system automatically?
Oh, so if you had basically awarded to a bidder, you're saying?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So yeah, if you did that, then at the time of award, the supplier gets created, and it would look just like any other supplier. Here, I'll just show you real quick.
There's a I think Mark is going to show you, there's a process to promote a bidder from a supplier. So if a bidder in the system wins, then you can promote them from bidder to supplier.
Right. So it would look just like a regular supplier, but see, the thing is, the system will handle that for you behind the scenes. The other thing you can do is there's a transaction that I was actually in earlier this morning or this evening, you folks, that looked like this. See, convert bidder to supplier. So you can come in here if you wanted to.
That's the one I think that answers the question, because here what's happening is you've got a bidder. You didn't elevate them to supplier till they won, and once they did, you'd go ahead and convert them.
Right. Or let the system do it. It can happen either way. And then the last thing that I was just looking to check here real quick, just to see that it was working, was if I come into the items. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess, does this answer your question? Am I saying it right? Chironesia?
Karenisa, yeah, right.
Chironesia, thank you.
Karenisa. It's Nissa. It's okay.
Nissa, Chironissa.
Yeah, thank you.
So this was
Too
the
many
last piece.
letters. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this was the piece. The system built this supplier record matched to that item. So now, not only is the supplier record there, but it's storing the RFP price from the event.
All right. Chironisa, Nissa, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thanks. I had another question. Is there any option that collaborators, which we have included, can give their input as well? Like collaborators can be the finance people or the technical people, or the purchase committee people. Is there an option that they can enter record their input in the system?
Yeah, collaborators definitely can enter and record their information when they're analyzing. Okay, so just like I was putting in my scores for the different things that required scoring, collaborators can provide scoring as well, and they save it. It gets passed to other collaborators, and then when it's all done, the event owner can see all the collaboration input. They can still decide to do what they want. It's up to them as the event owner. That's why they're an owner, right? They can decide, but they can view everybody's input.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so.
So Mark, I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes.
Mark, actually we have different bodies who recommend the products for the purchase, be it tactical or be it strategic. Like we have pharmacy and a therapeutic committee, we have infection control committee. So there are a lot of committees who are actually advising for the purchase of certain products. So would they be considered as a collaborator, and how would they, plug in their recommendations and information? Is there any option and customization available for that?
Yeah, it's not really customization. It's configuration. There's a feature in the system called split analysis collaboration, and what that is for when you have different groups, right? Like you're describing. Not everyone's going to have input onto the packaging, let's say, but they may have input on maybe the financial aspects of it or whatever. So when you build, I don't know if you noticed when I did the collaboration early on, I just had category expert. So I had one section there. We can build multiple sections that have different collaborators focused on different things, and that's how it's handled. So it's
So here we are talking about some technical things, like they could not be sometimes defined in a financial way, but like there is a criteria where we give X number to FDA approved, Y to C approved, or WHO PQ. So would that be also embedded into this strategic sourcing part, the technical review part?
Well, then it sounds like they might get involved after all the responses have come back, right? So the post-event collaboration sounds like that's when you'd want to.
Yeah.
So they could potentially help to build the event to start with, and then once all the responses come back, this is probably what you're looking for. There's a feature in the system called internal bid factors. So what those are is not something that a supplier sees and responds to, but it's something the internal collaborators would score once the results come back. Like, if you recall, one of the bid factors I had was that what's our experience with this supplier? That's an internal one. The supplier doesn't see that, but you see it internally. So these questions that your technical group would evaluate and answer would be part of the bid factors they would see on the post-event collaboration.
All right.
Okay, bunch of hands raised. Wakar and Jazula are both raising hands right now.
Hi. So I have a question here. So what's the concept of closed envelope and open envelopes in strategic sourcing?
Okay, I missed the first part of the question.
What's the concept of closed envelope and open envelope?
Oh, open and close, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just saying whether or not a line has been, fully awarded or not. Once it has been fully awarded, then it closes out.
No. So in our scenario, we do the sealed bidding actually, the sealed bidding process. So maybe the question is that what if you want to get the proposal in a sealed bid, means confidentially.
Oh, so it's a confidential response that you don't want others to see. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, that's the same.
Okay, because I would think in that case it would just come back to the event owner, and we could set up. Well, first of all, they wouldn't involve any collaborators, so that would keep it private just to them. Now, if you would be concerned about other people in procurement potentially accessing the event, we could potentially lock it down so that event owners only see their own and don't share across the other in procurement. So those are some of the ways we could handle confidentiality.
No.
So hi, this is Amin. The main point that I think Wakar was asking, that usually what happens during the process of bidding, we would want nobody to review the prices of any single bidder. Even procurement people.
I understand. Yeah. I got you. Sorry. There's a concept in here called a sealed bid that no one can see anything until after the date is passed. The end of the event. So that would prevent anyone from going in
and the evaluators can be restricted from seeing certain sections of the RFP. So there would be a separate section that you'd have for pricing that would be available only to a small handful, where the quality types of questions could be evaluated by all the collaborators. We're already at the hour, and last time we went long, and that was good. I've got a hard stop at the bottom of the hour, so in about 20 minutes. Just wanted to check with everyone if we can plan to sort of bring it to a close here in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And if needed, we can always schedule a follow-up discussion. But just given the 15-minute warning already over, and I think Mark and I both have to leave for a meeting at the bottom of the hour.
So sure, we can close in the next 10 minutes. And if the team has more questions, we can definitely request you for another session.
Perfect.
Anybody else have their hand up, Randy?
I don't see at this time any hands up.
I just have a question.
Yes.
So we understand that once the deal is, I mean, the vendor is selected based on the evaluation criteria, we can also draft the contract for the selected vendor. So in a way, we will be able to connect one module with another module, which is the contract management. So how can we do this in this module? First of all, is it possible? The second is, how can we do it?
So you'd like to know how to relate the event to the contract management system? Is that what you're asking?
Mark, I think that's right. So linking it to supplier contracts and potentially procurement contracts.
Right. Well, a couple of things, and Randy can add to this too, because I know he's got other potential options as well. But here, when we do the award and we go to the award page, right here, instead of awarding to a purchase order, we could also award to a procurement contract. So that's just another option that's available to us. So what would happen is I could have just as easily, instead of sending this to a PO, all 200 of these two products, I could have said, build a procurement contract. As Randy showed the other day, procurement contracts and supplier contracts tie together, so you can get both of those generated. And then what happens is once that procurement contract's out there, then you can do PO releases against that. So we would have a procurement contract out there for 200, and then let's just say I needed 24 beakers. I could just do a purchase order that's a release against that contract for 24 beakers on a PO. Okay, and then if I need another 50 glass, do that. So those end up being purchase orders that get applied against that overall procurement contract. So it's up to you what you choose for an award type when you get to this award page.
And Mark, if I could add a little bit to that as well,
Yep.
a lot of times what you're going to want to do is if in the RFP process, you can include the template contract that you would like the supplier to review so that they can have a chance to preview that legal contract, give you any red line edits that they would suggest, and essentially fast track the start of the contracting process. Obviously, you'd only ultimately execute that with the awarded bidder, the supplier that gets the contract, but you get a chance to at least provide that sample template so that all bidders can review it and be prepared for that contract collaboration process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for the question. Do we have any other questions? I know this process is long, right? And I feel like we've you've just got the tip of the iceberg here, but super flexible, this tool, in terms of how many different types and phases and stages of collaboration, how much, whether you invoke workflow on the RFP, RFQ, contract, purchase order, all the way up and down the line. And I think that, all of that, it comes down to how you design the system. I think bottom line, the system is built to be flexible enough from a configuration perspective, workflow approval perspective, and, systematic collaboration perspective, that whatever your business processes are and however many those may branch into, I think the system has the flexibility to accommodate most of the events that you could throw at it. Got one question on fall.
Yeah, hello. I just need a confirmation that does supplier has the option to submit technical proposal while bidding, the brochures and other details?
Are you asking if the supplier can submit through the supplier portal?
Yeah, the brochures and other details.
Gotcha. Mark, you want to answer using the supplier portal as a tool to not just bid but collaborate once awarded?
Right. In fact, I just wanted to check something here real quickly. I just want to go to the bid factors for just a second. Yeah, so, this is what I wanted to show you. When you set up the bid factors, you can set up one that's got a type called attachment, okay? And so any technical reference documents, things like that might be required or that you want them to submit, they can attach to the bid factor, and that can be done through the portal, or can be sent to the event owner separately, and then they can attach it. So this would be where it would be stored. It would be stored within the bid factor.
And I think what maybe would be useful, Mark, maybe we set up another session to show how a bidder from the supplier portal would come in and actually answer the RFP.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'd have to have supplier portal set up, right, to do that. But
there's a lot of steps. There's a lot of setup steps for sure. I think we do actually in this environment have the supplier portal set up, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that what the supplier would see would be exactly the way I keyed it in. So in other words, they would get they would go into the supplier portal. There would be an area, events to respond to, be a link they would click. The event would open up, and they'd have those response pages just like I had. But it would be in the supplier portal, and it would be the supplier filling it out instead of the buyer filling it out.
Right.
So
including attachments, including every response to every question in the RFP.
That's right. That's exactly
Yep.
right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, one more question. Is it Ijazula? Your call, your question here? I have one hand raised, but Ijazula Beg.
Yes, Randall, can you hear me?
We can
Hello?
now.
helpful.
Oh, sorry, it was muted. I'm so sorry. So I just wanted to add one thing, like I hope we can easily build query schedules to get an update as where our process has reached or what are the pending matters so that we could work on that to fulfill the sourcing projects. Because as of now, in multiple areas, our PeopleSoft has already built up the queries to get to know about the status of the operation or the activity where it has reached. If there is something pending, we could, go on and add, the pending matter so that it gets closed. So I hope here we can also develop queries schedules accordingly.
You can definitely develop queries. There are a couple of inquiries, not many in strategic sourcing, but there's this place here, the event workbench. This is kind of your dashboard into all the events. So you can definitely go in and see things. You can click. This takes you to the main event page. You can click the event history. This will take you into this where you can go through all the whole life cycle of the event and click on the relevant data that was provided in each of those spots. So that's kind of how you would probably get access to a lot of information and track the individual events. Okay, because they all have statuses associated with them.
And there are ways of saving your search default so that, once you've filtered it down to the way you like to look at this workbench, you can save those and create a few different varieties. This is just, the sourcing workbench. This is what you would typically use to evaluate the status of open events. But to your point, there are plenty of it's all system data, right? So queries and notifications can be built as needed and as determined.
Yeah, that's like important to understand as where the team has approached or is the performance being gauged as per the plan and as per the targets or not.
Yep. I think we're nearing the bottom of the hour. Mark, don't know if we have time to dive into anything else in the system. I say we leave the last 10 minutes for just open Q&A, and don't feel you have to raise your hand anymore. Go ahead and just unmute yourself and ask your question. All right, I'll take silence as a sign that you need to think about this. There's a lot that we presented and a lot to consume. Certainly questions will come to mind as you evaluate what you saw over the course of the week. I would say if we could go ahead and maybe Malik, if you could collect the questions on your side and maybe sort of aggregate them and send them over to us, we can answer them. If we think that there's a follow-up session that's needed to perhaps show you the supplier response through supplier portal, we could do that. Otherwise, we're open to your needs if other sessions are needed, or if just a Q&A via email is appropriate, we'll follow your lead.
Yeah.
All right, Randy. That's
I
great.
think
I'm gonna
it
stop
was
the recording at this
wonderful.
point and
So allow back, reflect on the recording. and maybe come up with a few emails. Yeah.
That'd be great. We'll work via email for the next week, and then we'll make a determination if a follow-up is needed. But hopefully we've given you enough information
Okay.
for your decision on deploying this very, very flexible and useful tool.
All right.
All right then.
All right. Thanks
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks Randy. I'm gonna end the recording
Sir,
now.
Thank you, Randall. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Marcus.